anything yellow up here with you, all right?
Good Monday morning, Mark Conlock, Director of Horticulture here at Green Bay Botanical Garden. Happy Mondays with Mark! I'm down here in the Partnership Garden, which is a really cool area of Green Bay Botanical Garden. And this year, with the whole situation that we had, we really made this our All-America Selections display garden for vegetables, a lot of veggies and annuals. So I'll show you some of like where they're commingled with the ornamental edible planting. But also want to point out we're doing this also Planting for a Purpose, which is part of the Green Bay Packers Give Back program. So we partner here with Aspiro. They're here harvesting our produce. They came in last week now that we got everything going and we got a lot to pick. So they pick the produce and donate it to Paul's Pantry. So if you're wondering where all this amazing vegetable matter goes to, it goes to Paul's Pantry to help out everybody there. So it's a really awesome partnership with Aspiro, Green Bay Botanical Garden, Paul's Pantry, and the Packers Give Back program. So like, it became a quadruple win-win-win-win-win, if you can believe that. So right now what these guys are doing is they're harvesting some of our crops we kind of planted in the springtime, like kale. There's some, tomatoes here that they're harvesting too. But what we're really doing is taking out some of the cool season crops that have really, kind of gone past their prime, but they can still get one last big harvest on. And we're gonna clear out that space because what we can do is plant those cool season guys now for a harvest later in the fall when it's the best time when they taste really good. So I wanted to point out, I'm kind of getting off track already, but I wanted to point out this book by Melinda Myers, Month by Month Gardening in Wisconsin. It's really awesome. It tells you about all different crops, vegetables, annuals, trees and shrubs, perennials, and what to do every month of the year. So that's where I'll get a lot of my tips for these Mondays with Mark. But she has this really cool schedule in here that tells you when to plant crops for a final crop planting in the fall for harvest still. So really, I want to bring you over here and show you something. So this is a really good reference, and in the back here it tells our last frost date. For us in Green Bay, it's kind of like around the beginning of October typically where we have our first frost. So in the book here it says like October 4th, so it's sometime around there. But on the seed packets it'll tell you, the days to harvest on here. So pretty much you want to count, from today's date and see by the October 4th, 7th-ish, if there's enough time for the crop to make it, so this guy is on the edge, 55 days. So we'd still give it a shot, right? Because if it's a warmer than normal fall, we would have a crop. Some of these lettuce guys, that only takes 35 days. So we for sure can do that one because that'll be, the middle of September. It'll be cooler. We can definitely get a crop in there. So, once Aspiro clear cuts that area, then this week we'll plant some of these cool season crops like beets, kale, collard greens possibly, lettuce, different stuff like that we got here. The kohlrabi, we could still possibly get another crop in. So that's kind of like a thing you could do in your own garden if you have some of those cool season crops, you have a little space. Or the other thing we're doing is harvesting some of our herbs. So here we have this newer basil, Rutgers Passion. It's one that's disease resistant and it's been taking a long time to flower, which is good because once the flowers come, the basil tastes a little different. So we've been harvesting this basil, and what we did on one of our little raised beds with the Aspiro on Fridays, they took all that basil out and donated to Paul's Pantry. So then now we have a little raised bed where we can go grow some cool season crops. So that's like one big thing you could do is make your final harvest of the cool season and plant a new batch.
Mark, are there any vegetables that aren't necessarily ready to be harvested or picked?
Yeah, we're taking a look over here. We have some really cool All-America Selection winners because this is the partnership garden, but this year is a display garden for All-America Selection winners. So this Midnight Snack is a really cool tomato with that dark black color, but it's not ready to harvest yet. It should have a bit of orange on the bottom when it's ready. So we still have to wait a while on these like warm season crops like our tomatoes, our peppers, our winter squash still needs some time. Summer squash like zucchinis we've been picking for a long time, but a lot of these Solanaceae crops, it's been warm, but they still need a little bit more time. So for them, what we're doing is making sure they get a good inch of water a week. We're scouting them for diseases and insects. If we see any discolored leaves and things, we want to get that debris off and out of there so that it doesn't spread. And then we're still doing a little bit of pruning of kind of like some of our like suckers or other branches of the tomatoes to put their energy into getting these fruit ripe that we have already.
Mark Dwyer thinks you should wear the hat all the time.
Oh yeah, ask Mark if he likes my red-tailed hawk feather I found here at the Green Bay Botanical Garden. What I like about these little beds here that we have is it's kind of the ornamental edible look here. So we have this red on chocolate Viking XL wax begonia, which is an All-America selection winner with really dark leaf foliage with that midnight snack. Tomato is kind of a cool combo. And over here we have the pink supradianthus with some of the cabbage that we actually harvested, the ones that were in the ground over there, and donated to Paul's Pantry. So it's kind of a cool way where you can combine flowers with vegetables, and here it's all America Selection winner, so it's really a cool combination of things. What else? The other thing to do would be consider protecting your crops from deer, because we did have some deer come in here, eat our beans unfortunately, and our garden peas. So if you have that kind of problem, you know, you could spray it with something that's okay for vegetables, or consider having a bigger, better fence probably next year. It's kind of late to do a big project like that. Anything else, Rachel? What else?
Onions. Are onions ready?
All right, the onions. Well, right over here we have some onions, and what I know about them is they're ready when the tops kind of fall over. So you can see over there, a couple of those onions might be ready to be harvested, but a lot of them are still pretty good. And one thing to think about is how to store all your produce. So think about like how do you want to can it or prepare it, and the onions you'd want to like kind of like sit for a couple weeks outside and cure before you put them into your, you know, kind of like your root cellar type situation. So UW Extension, again, one of my go-to sources, has a lot of good information on, you know, food preparation, safety, and how to preserve your different vegetables and fruits that you might be growing in your yard. So those are a couple tips for Mondays with Mark here at Green Bay Botanical Garden. For more information, check out our website, www.gbbg.org, and our Facebook page.